HOA Karen set up a buffet in my driveway. So I released my pet ducks. Part 1. The unauthorized feast begins. I opened my front door, expecting birdsong and a peaceful morning breeze. Instead, I got hit with a face full of carne asada and cilantro. I blinked, thinking maybe I'd wandered into a food truck rally by accident. But no, it was worse. My driveway, my actual private, legally owned driveway, had been hijacked. 3 long folding tables, covered in trays of steaming tacos, enchiladas, and rice, chafing dishes bubbling like it was a wedding reception, bright decorations flapping in the breeze, and someone, I kid you not, had plugged a mini sound system into my outdoor outlet. And there, at the center of it all, stood Karen. Pearls on, hair teased, clipboard in hand. She looked like she was hosting the Met Gala, in my driveway. Before I could even form words, she strutted over with that smug little grin. "Oh, good! You're up! We started early so the food stays hot. Hope that's okay," she chirped, like this was all totally normal. I blinked, speechless. She kept going. "It's for the spring kickoff brunch, neighborhood bonding, HOA. Approved it last week. Don't worry, we'll be done by 2. I looked past her. People were already grabbing plates like it was an open bar. One guy was double-fisting margaritas at 9 a.m. I took a deep breath and asked the only thing that made sense. "Why is this on my property?" Karen tilted her head like I'd asked her to solve a riddle. "Well, your driveway has the best sun angle for photos. Plus, it's the widest, and your house is neutral colored. It's perfect for Instagram." She said it, like I should feel honored. I looked down. Guests were stepping on my flower bed, knocking over my solar lights. I said, "Karen, you can't do this." "It's trespassing. You never asked me." She giggled, actually giggled. "Oh, come on, it's just brunch. We're all neighbors here. Try to be a team player, okay?" That line, that tone. I was about to lose it when her friend Cheryl handed me a plate of tacos. Like that was going to fix everything. "Come on, just eat with us," she said. "No need to make a scene." I didn't take the plate. I didn't say a word. I turned, walked back inside, and slammed the door shut. But inside, I was boiling. I was under siege. And the HOA backed her. When I called the president, he literally said, "Let's just let it play out." Play out? Like this was some sitcom episode? Karen had staged a full-scale takeover of my driveway. And no one, not the HOA, not the neighbors, seemed to care. But they'd all forgotten one thing. I had backup, feathered, furious, and just waiting for their moment. Part 2. Operation Quackdown begins. I stood in my kitchen, blinds drawn, staring at the chaos outside like it was a scene from a food-themed apocalypse. Karen was snapping selfies in front of my garage like she was hosting Coachella. And the HOA president? He couldn't care less. "This isn't over," I muttered. That's when I saw them, 5 little waddling wonders. My ducks, Sir Quack-a-Lot, Nibbles, Peppa, Biscuit, and Danger Zone. I rescued them last summer from a busted petting zoo. Since then, they've become my feathery little ride or dies, loyal, chaotic, and weirdly smarter than half the HOA board. And cilantro? They hated it. An unfortunate salad incident made sure of that. They were just chilling near the garden when the scent of tacos drifted their way. And that's when it hit me. The buffet, the trays, the open food, the salsa. I had 5 agents of chaos, and nothing left to lose. So I whispered, "Go get 'em, boys." With a soft click, I opened the gate, and they charged. Sir Quack-a-Lot led the way like a knight in feathered armor. The others followed, flapping, honking, and fueled by pure duck vengeance. They didn't need a battle plan, just the scent of cilantro and the spirit of justice. They stormed across the lawn, my private HOA ignored lawn, and launched themselves straight into the taco buffet. Peppa dove beak first into a tray of rice. Biscuit flapped onto the table so hard Karen's fake flour centerpiece flew into someone's face. The crowd gasped, frozen in shock, until Nibbles, sweet, unpredictable Nibbles found the cilantro dip and went absolutely feral. He shook his head wildly, sending green flecks into the wind like confetti at a petty parade. Karen shrieked, "Ducks! Who let animals in here?" She grabbed a napkin holder and tried to shoo them, which only made Sir Quack-a-Lot lunge at her ankle. She screamed again, stumbling back into a tray of guacamole, painting her leopard print blouse with avocado fury. Meanwhile, Danger Zone was chasing a toddler holding a quesadilla and a juice box. "They're following me!" the kid cried as his mom filmed it, laughing way too hard. The buffet was in ruins. Tortilla chips crunched under flip-flops. Salsa poured down the driveway like a red river. Churros hit the pavement and were instantly claimed in a sticky duck frenzy. Karen, now guacamole-covered and mascara-smudged, pointed at my house like a cartoon villain. You released them! This is sabotage!" She stormed toward my porch, trembling with rage, but I just stood behind the screen door, sipping my lemonade. "They're my pets," I said calmly. "They live here, unlike your taco tables." Karen was losing her mind. "I'm calling animal control. This is harassment. You're going to regret this." She was mid-screech when the animal control van pulled up. And when the officers stepped out, even they paused. One leaned in and whispered, "Are those ducks eating tacos?" Sir Quack-a-Lot was perched on a chair, aggressively pecking a tortilla like it owed him rent. Karen ran to them, flailing her clipboard like it was a search warrant. "Remove them! They're attacking people! They're violating the community codes!" The officer blinked. "Ma'am, ducks are legal pets if they're on private property." She pointed at me like I was the Duck King. "He let them loose. They were weapons." The second officer turned to me. "Sir, is that true?" I shrugged. "They live in my backyard. I opened the gate. They wandered out. Maybe they got hungry." One officer let out a quiet snort, then coughed to cover it. "This seems more like a neighborhood dispute than a public safety issue." Karen's jaw dropped so hard, I swear I heard it click. "You're siding with him?" The ducks were now napping in the sun, bloated, victorious, and completely unaware of the storm they'd just unleashed. But I knew. This was just the beginning. Part 3. Karen's house of cards starts to crumble. Just as animal control turned to leave, thoroughly entertained and 0% alarmed, a silver sedan crept around the corner. The HOA president had arrived, David, the man who usually avoided conflict like it was contagious, the type to send passive-aggressive emails, but never actually show up. But today, he had no choice. The block was buzzing. The buffet explosion had already made it to the neighborhood group chat, and now David had to face the carnage in person. He stepped out of the car and froze. Eyes wide, taking it all in, overturned tables, half-eaten trays, a driveway slicked with salsa. Karen, standing in the center of it all, looking like a rejected contestant from Iron Chef Disaster Edition. And my ducks, 5 of them, lounging in the sun like feathered royalty. David blinked. "Karen, what in the HOA is going on here?" She ran to him like a drama queen in a telenovela. "Oh, thank God. David, I've been under attack. By poultry." She waved her arms toward the ducks. He unleashed them on my event. They ruined everything. Look at me. Look at the guac. David looked, then looked at me. I sipped my lemonade. He asked calmly, "Did your ducks attack her brunch?" I paused, just for effect, then answered, "They walked out, found food on my property. They acted on instinct and taste." Karen's jaw clenched like a trap ready to spring. David sighed, a long, slow sigh like a man realizing his weekend just got ruined. "Karen, did you get approval for this event?" She hesitated, eyes darting. "Well, I told Cheryl and assumed—" "Did you get official approval?" he repeated, his voice sharper now. She deflated. "Not exactly." That was it. David pulled out his phone, snapped photos of everything, the mess, the tables, the sunbathing ducks, and Karen's clipboard still trembling in her hand. "We'll be reviewing this at tonight's emergency board meeting," he said flatly. "You may want to prepare a statement." Karen stared at him, stunned. "Trespassing," he added. "Misuse of HOA communication channels, possibly misappropriating funds." She looked like she was about to combust. Face red, blouse stained in 3 different shades of taco sauce, and a duck feather stuck to her forehead. Her eyes darted around, searching for backup. But Cheryl? Gone. The guests? Scattered. The neighbors? Hiding behind curtains or already uploading duck footage online. There was no cavalry. Just her, standing alone in a salsa-slick disaster zone, with her clipboard as her only defense. David gave me a subtle nod before leaving. And just like that, the balance shifted. My driveway was mine again, and my ducks? Legends. They waddled back to the backyard like seasoned warriors returning from battle, heads high, bellies full, and reputations skyrocketed. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Karen wasn't the type to surrender. She was the type to regroup and retaliate. And when she came back, she'd come swinging. But for now, for one glorious afternoon, I had peace, a cold drink, and 5 ducks basking in victory. Part 4. Karen tries to lawyer up and fails spectacularly. I should have known she wouldn't go down that easy. 2 days after the buffet blow-up, I found an envelope taped to my front door. Not a note, not an apology. Nope. It was an official-looking letter on heavy paper with a watermark and a law firm's letterhead at the top. Inside, a full-blown cease-and-desist order. Apparently, I had used wild animals to deliberately sabotage a community event. Wild animals. She was trying to sue me. Over ducks. Ducks named Biscuit and Peppa. I actually had to sit down to finish reading it because I was laughing too hard to stand. The letter accused me of emotional endangerment, property sabotage, public humiliation, and my favorite line? Loss of reputation, mental anguish, and social trauma. I nearly snorted my coffee. Karen wasn't just reaching. She was doing Olympic-level gymnastics. She even included a list of damages. A handmade centerpiece imported from Italy. It was fake marigolds from Dollar Tree. A pair of leopard print sandals irreparably stained by salsa. And her dignity. I knew it was nonsense, but just to be safe, I took the letter to my friend Ava, who works at a legal office downtown. She skimmed it once, smirked, and said, "She paid a lawyer for this? Ducks aren't wild animals, they're pets. You didn't break any laws." Then she added, "You want to have some fun? Send back a reply. On novelty stationery." I didn't, but the temptation was real. Still, I kept it professional. I had the facts, the footage, the HOA on my side. Karen, on the other hand, had salsa-stained sandals and a fantasy lawsuit. But she wasn't done. The next morning, Every neighbor's mailbox, including mine, had a folded flyer inside. The title? An open letter from Karen to our community. It read like the villain monologue of a bad soap opera. She claimed, I unleashed trained attack animals on her event. I endangered children with unpredictable creatures. And that I created an environment of fear. According to Karen, I was the real menace. And my ducks. And the wildest part? Some of the older residents, who hadn't witnessed the taco massacre firsthand, started to believe her. One of them even stopped me during my morning walk and said, I heard you've got attack ducks now. Be careful, dear. Attack ducks. That's when I realized. Karen wasn't just mad. She was rewriting the narrative, twisting the truth until it snapped and hoping no one would notice. I had two choices. One, stay quiet and hope it blew over. Second, or respond, publicly, with receipts. I chose the latter, because if Karen wanted a narrative war, I was ready to quack back. Part 5. The Quack Back. Heard. Around the neighborhood. If Karen wanted to play PR warfare, I was more than ready. The next morning, while the ducks waddled around the backyard like nothing had happened, I got to work. First, I gathered every piece of evidence I had. Photos of the buffet, tables, guests, margaritas at 9 a.m., a shot of Karen smiling in front of my garage holding a mic like she was hosting the Oscars. And, most importantly, screenshots of Sir Quack-a-Lot mid-leap into the rice tray. I even pulled some highlights from my security cam. Biscuit flapping onto the table like a feathered wrecking ball. Nibbles cannonballing into the cilantro. Karen screaming with guacamole on her face. Each moment, beautifully time-stamped. Then I designed a flyer, big, bold, and titled, The Truth About the Ducks, What Really Happened on 7th Street. I included a QR code linking to a Dropbox folder, filled with the footage. And yes, I made sure the file names were labeled clearly. Karen Buffett Invasion.mp4, Duck Justice Unleashed.movie, Karen vs. Salsa, Final Cut.move. Then I printed 50 color flyers and walked door to door, just like Karen, except this time, the truth had feathers. Within hours, the neighborhood group chat blew up. People started sharing the videos. One person made a meme of Sir Quack-a-Lot mid-flight with the caption, When HOA Karen forgets whose driveway it is. Another edited Danger Zone's chase scene into a Mission Impossible trailer. By evening, the ducks were more famous than Karen's entire HOA career. And then, I got the call. It was David, the HOA president. His voice, exhausted. I've seen everything now, he said. The brunch, the videos, the flyers. We need a meeting. He invited me to the clubhouse the next night. I expected maybe 5 people to show. I was wrong. The place was packed. Turns out, when ducks take down a tyrant, people show up. Karen arrived last, clipboard in one hand, a man in a cheap suit trailing behind her. Probably her lawyer. She walked in like she was about to run for office. Again. David stood and cleared his throat. We're here tonight to address the events that occurred at the unauthorized buffet and the fallout that followed. Karen tried to interrupt. He shut her down with a raised hand. You trespassed. You misled the community. And you called animal control on ducks. The room was silent, except for a few chuckles. Then he turned to me. Would you like to speak? I nodded, stood up, and calmly placed a USB drive on the table. This contains full footage, I said. Karen, on my driveway, uninvited, on video, telling guests that I approved everything, which I didn't. Karen's smug expression flickered, then vanished completely. Her lawyer whispered something and started packing his briefcase before the meeting even ended. David looked at the board, then made the announcement. Karen was officially suspended from all future HOA event planning. She would be responsible for cleanup costs. And from now on, any HOA flyers or communications would require 2 board signatures. Karen looked like she'd just swallowed a cactus. I gave her a polite nod as she left. The ducks? Back home, napping in the sun, belly full of watermelon. They had no idea they'd just won a political war. But I did. And the best part? This wasn't over yet, because Karen may have lost her clipboard. But I knew she still had one tantrum left. Part 6. The potluck plot and the duck block defense. The morning after the HOA meeting felt eerily calm. No flyers, no clipboard patrols, no surprise mariachi-themed buffets on my driveway. It was peaceful. A little too peaceful. Karen wasn't gone, she was planning. I knew the signs, the quiet before the clipboard. And sure enough, around noon, it started. First came my sweet neighbor Bill. Bless his twice-a-day lawn watering routine. He walked up holding a paper flyer and said, "Hey, I think you were listed as parking for this?" I took the flyer. It read, "Community Apology Potluck, hosted by Karen, our friend and organizer. Let's start fresh. Bring a dish, bring a smile. Parking, 1427 Maple Drive." That was my house. Karen wasn't using my driveway for the potluck. She was using it as a parking lot. Unreal. She had enough sense not to throw another party on my concrete, but apparently thought she could flood my yard with minivans full of deviled eggs and awkward small talk. That's when I knew. It was time for Duck Defense 2.0. I cleared the driveway, moved my car to the curb, grabbed a kiddie pool, filled it with cool water, duck feed, and a few slices of watermelon. Then I set out their favorite toys, a soccer ball, some squeaky rings, and the collapsible tunnel they loved to dash through like little missiles of chaos. Within minutes, the ducks were out, waddling, flapping, having the time of their lives. Sir Quaxalo even perched at the edge of the pool like a tiny lifeguard, scanning the horizon for unauthorized casseroles. I sat on the porch, cold drink in hand, waiting for the show to begin. And oh, it did. Around noon, the first wave of guests showed up. One woman, in a Subaru, tried to pull into my driveway, then hit the brakes when she saw the 5 ducks playing like toddlers on Red Bull. She rolled down her window. "Is this the potluck parking?" I smiled. "Nope. Private property, the lot's down the street." She blinked, looked at the ducks, and backed away slowly. But then came Cheryl, the human version of a passive-aggressive post-it. She stepped out of her car, wearing a sundress and an expression that said, "This is beneath me." "Are you doing this on purpose?" she snapped. "Doing what?" I asked, sipping lemonade. "Letting ducks play on your driveway. Letting my pets enjoy their yard? Pretty sure that's legal." She muttered something about juvenile behavior and flounced off. Then came Karen. Blazer, pearls, clipboard, the full regalia. She froze when she saw the ducks, the pool, me lounging like a suburban Bond villain. "This is harassment," she hissed. "You're obstructing a community event." I shrugged. "It's my driveway, my ducks. They're just having a pool party." "You're doing this to spite me," I grinned. "No, I'm doing it to protect my land from repeated brunch invasions." Karen's face turned so red, I was afraid she'd explode like a poorly timed firework. Danger Zone sensed the tension and waddled toward her, neck outstretched, low honking. She stepped back so fast she nearly tripped on her own clipboard. "I'll report this to the HOA." "Please do," I said. "Maybe this time they'll remember who owns this driveway." Karen stormed off, again. but not before a few potluck guests laughed, snapped photos, and whispered, "Man, those ducks don't play." The potluck continued at the actual community lot, but turnout was weak. People were too distracted by the duck carnival happening in front of my house. Kids waved. A neighbor brought over chopped fruit as a peace offering for the real HOA heroes. By sunset, the ducks were tuckered out, snoozing in the shade. And me? Still sipping lemonade, watching Karen sulk across the lawn. Her plan, once again, foiled by ducks. And this time, there was no buffet to hide behind, no brunch to spin, just 5 fluffy reminders that I was done being steamrolled. Karen didn't know it yet, but her reign? It was officially quacking at the seams. Part 7. The Policy Trap and the Duck Rebellion. A week of silence. No flyers, no potlucks, no Karen. It was suspicious. She hadn't shown up at dog walking hour, a time she usually strutted through the neighborhood like she owned it. That's when I knew Karen wasn't defeated. She was regrouping, and just like clockwork, it happened. An email from the HOA, subject line, Policy Amendment Proposal for Community Review. The title was sterile, HOA speak for, "We're coming for something you love." I opened it, and my coffee nearly shot out of my nose. The proposal? A motion to restrict non-traditional pets and limit free-roaming animals on private property. Oh, it didn't say ducks. But every line screamed, "This is about ducks." One clause read, "Animals with aggressive tendencies have caused unrest among residents." Aggressive? These ducks spent their days chasing bubbles and waddling through tunnels. They weren't a threat. They were therapy in feathered form. It was Karen. I knew it. She had crawled out of her potluck shame cave, grabbed her keyboard, and tried to nuke my ducks through bureaucracy. But what she didn't expect was the ducks had fans. A lot of them. Ever since the brunch incident, the community had fallen in love with my 5 quacking legends. Kids called them by name. Neighbors dropped off snacks. Even the grumpiest HOA members had to admit the ducks had charm. So if Karen wanted to go to war with them, I was going to give her a feathered fight to remember. That week, I got to work. First, I printed out duck headshots. Yes, I had them. Sir Quacks-a-Lot, noble and smug, Nibbles mid-chomp, Biscuit, wearing a mini sombrero, Danger Zone in a superhero cape. Peppa fluffed up like she just heard a rude comment. Underneath each photo, I added the caption, "Protect the citizens of Quacktown." Next, I created a flyer titled, "Let Ducks Live, Why Feathered Friends Deserve Freedom." Bullet points, pictures, even a quote from Mr. Jenkins down the street. They haven't disturbed anyone, except maybe Karen's ego. Finally, the pièce de résistance. A cardboard trifold board, school science fair style, covered in duck memes, timeline photos, and one glorious still shot of Karen getting flapped in the face with a tortilla while Nibbles stood victorious on a taco tray. I printed 50 flyers, packed up my duck board, and marched to the HOA clubhouse like I was leading the Quackvolution. That night, the meeting was packed. Even the teens showed up. Even Dana, who said she'd rather drink pond water than attend HOA meetings, was there with popcorn. Karen entered late, clipboard in hand, pearly blazer gleaming, looking like the villain entering stage left. She sat 2 rows across from me and smirked. I smirked back and lifted the duck board like Excalibur. David, the HOA president, cleared his throat. Tonight, we're reviewing the policy amendment proposal regarding non-traditional pets. Karen stood, gave a whole speech about community harmony, livestock risk, and, I kid you not, avian-related trauma. She even cited an anonymous complaint about a child almost tripping on a duck during a neighborhood gathering. I stood up next, placed my duck board in full view, passed out flyers like I was running for mayor of Quacktown. Then I said, "These are my ducks. They are peaceful. They are contained. They have never bitten, chased, or disturbed anyone, unless you're counting tortilla theft." A few chuckles rippled through the room. I continued. "This isn't about safety. This is about spite. One person who got flustered by feathers and is now trying to rewrite the rules out of embarrassment." I paused and hit play on a 20-second video clip. Karen shrieking, ducks waddling, and Sir Quack-a-Lot diving into guacamole like it was the Olympics. The room erupted. Even David had to pretend he was coughing to hide his laughter. When the laughter died down, David looked around. "All in favor of the amendment?" One hand, Karen's. That was it. David nodded. Motion rejected, 8-1. Karen's jaw dropped. She stood, clipboard shaking, and hissed, "This is ridiculous." I smiled. "No, this is democracy." As she stormed out, someone whispered behind me, "Long live the ducks." And me? I sat back down, lemonade in hand, knowing the feathered rebellion had just won another battle, with style. Part 8, the Hall of Feathers and the final quackdown. You'd think after losing a vote 8-1, most people would take the L, go home, maybe bake some banana bread and move on. But not Karen. Oh no. Karen didn't lose. In her mind, she was ambushed. And she wasn't going to stop until the ducks were banned, barbecued, or both. For the next few days, it was quiet. Too quiet. No flyers, no HOA complaints, no passive-aggressive stares from across the street. I knew that silence. It was Karen's favorite weapon. Then, it came. A new HOA bulletin, folded neatly, taped to every mailbox. But this one, it had flair. Front-page banner, "Restoring Order, a Vision for a Calmer Community." And below it, a full-color article titled, "Reclaiming Our Neighborhood from Disruptive Forces." It didn't mention me by name. But let's just say when a paragraph reads, "No homeowner should fear feathers while walking to their mailbox," you know exactly who wrote it. Karen had pulled the ultimate HOA move, using the bulletin as her personal revenge diary. She described recent events as anarchy disguised as cuteness, and the rise of animal-based intimidation. She even suggested starting a pet oversight subcommittee, chaired, surprise, by herself. My neighbors were torn between laughter and eye rolls, but me? I had an idea. If Karen wanted to turn the HOA newsletter into a smear campaign, then it was time to go full duck hero mode. I grabbed my phone, opened Canva, and created the greatest thing I've ever designed, the Duck Hall of Fame. A poster, glossy, full color, 18 by 24 inches. Across the top, "In honor of our feathered protectors," and underneath, a portrait of Sir Quack-a-Lot in aviator goggles, titled, "The Winged Warden." Peppa mid-waddle, captioned, "Small but spicy." Danger zone, staring into the lens with wild eyes labeled, "Security level, honk 5." In the center, a group shot, the infamous taco battle, perfectly timed, Biscuit leaping through a cloud of tortilla chips, with Nibbles body-slamming a guac tray. I printed 10 copies, laminated them. Then, with the help of some very motivated neighbors, we posted them. One at the community board, one at the clubhouse, and one, very respectfully, on the tree next to Karen's mailbox. The caption, "The only patrol this neighborhood needs." The response, immediate. That night, my group chat exploded. Memes, duck emojis. One neighbor photoshopped Quacksalot onto a dollar bill. Another created a mock election flyer that said, "Vote Ducks 2025. Less drama, more quack." Karen, she was unwell. The next morning, she was outside tearing posters down like she was in a political thriller. But every time she ripped one, two more popped up. Someone even stuck one on a pizza box delivered to her door. By noon, she marched to the HOA clubhouse, clutching the newsletter like a sacred scroll. David, now completely done with everything, met her outside. I was there too. She pointed at me. "He's turning the HOA into a circus." David looked over, saw the ducks in the kiddie pool with tiny sombreros on again, and sighed. "Karen," he said, tired beyond belief, "maybe it's time to let it go." She froze. "Let it go?" she gasped, like he'd suggested banning air. David nodded. "The ducks are more popular than the HOA right now. You can fight them. But at this point, it just makes you look—" He trailed off. But we all knew the word. Desperate. She opened her mouth, closed it, and for the first time since this entire taco-scented saga began, Karen turned and walked away. No threats, no clipboard, no screams, just footsteps, one after another. As she disappeared down the street, I turned to David and raised my lemonade in salute. He smiled and said, "Quack on, my friend." That night, the ducks got extra watermelon. The neighborhood finally felt calm. And Karen? She was still out there, plotting maybe, but something told me. She knew the truth. This war, it wasn't hers anymore. The ducks had won the hearts and claimed the crown. Part 9. Legal Ducks and Laughing Judges. Just when I thought the neighborhood had finally entered the post-Karen era, boom, a knock on the door, not a clipboard, not an HOA flyer, but a man in a gray suit, holding a manila envelope like it was radioactive. "Delivery from Mr. Waters," he said. I signed, opened the envelope, and immediately burst out laughing. Karen was suing me. No, seriously. She hired a real attorney and filed a civil complaint alleging, and I quote, "willful release of hostile poultry for the purpose of public disruption, emotional distress, and reputational sabotage." I had to sit down. My legs gave out. I reread the first paragraph 3 times just to make sure it wasn't a prank. It wasn't. She listed damages including 1 pair of designer leopard print flats ruined by guacamole, a centerpiece sourced from authentic artisan markets in Milan, and, brace yourself, long-term social trauma due to being filmed while under avian attack. She called it the quaccident. At that point, I didn't know whether to lawyer up or start selling duck-themed t-shirts. But I played it smart. I scanned the complaint and sent it to my old friend Ava, a paralegal who'd handled everything from dog bite cases to neighborhood feuds. 5 minutes later, she called me. "Okay," she said, trying not to laugh. "First, you're fine. Second, can I please post this on Reddit?" I declined, but only barely. Turns out, the lawsuit was riddled with holes. Karen had no evidence the ducks were hostile, no proof I incited anything, no standing, no witnesses, and best of all, we had video. Lots of it. From phones. From the porch camera. From a neighbor's GoPro that accidentally caught Biscuit doing a barrel roll off the taco table. I was ready. When the court date came, I walked in cool as a cucumber. While Karen arrived wearing beige armor, shoulder pads, pearl earrings, and a binder so thick it could stop bullets. The judge was a woman in her 60s who clearly had seen it all. Karen stood first. She launched into a 15-minute speech about neighborhood unity, how she was ambushed by a coordinated poultry attack, and how the ducks targeted her with militaristic precision. The judge didn't blink. When it was my turn, I simply pulled out a flash drive. "Your Honor," I said, plugging it into the screen, "I believe the footage speaks for itself." And then, the ducks. The moment Biscuit dove headfirst into the rice tray. The slow-mo of Sir Quaxolo waddling between folding chairs like a feathered general. Karen shrieking as guacamole sprayed her like a cannon blast. The courtroom lost it. Even the stenographer laughed. Karen was red, not just angry, but salsa red. The judge let it play for a minute, then turned to me with a raised brow. "Those are your pets?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am." "And they live on your property?" "Yes." "And you didn't command them to attack?" "Nope. They just saw food and acted accordingly." She nodded, wrote something down, then turned to Karen. "Ma'am, this is not a criminal case. This is not even a strong civil case. This is what we in law call—" She paused. "A waste of everyone's time." Case dismissed. Karen gasped. "But, Your Honor," the judge held up a hand. "If you want to refile under emotional poultry trauma, be my guest. But I suggest you let this go, before the ducks file a countersuit." Mic drop. I walked out of that courtroom feeling 10 feet tall, and the moment I got home, the ducks were waiting, like tiny war veterans basking in the sun. I set down a watermelon tray, gave each one a celebratory pet, and whispered, "You've been acquitted, boys." Part 10. The apology nobody asked for. A few days after the courtroom comedy closed, I thought maybe, just maybe, Karen had learned her lesson. The ducks were legends. The neighborhood had rallied. The HOA was embarrassed into actually following rules. Peace at last? Yeah. No. Because just when I was enjoying a lemonade by the koi pond, a flyer arrived in my mailbox. High-quality print, gold trim, embossed title. A heartfelt community apology from Karen Delaney. I nearly choked on my drink. It was 6 paragraphs of weaponized humility, the kind that sounds nice until you actually read it. She opened with, "I acknowledge that my recent actions may have been perceived as intrusive or disruptive." May have been perceived? Lady, you held a full taco war on my driveway. She went on, "My intentions were pure, to bring unity, joy, and shared salsa to our neighborhood." Unity, joy, and shared salsa. I had to sit down. The next section, all about how she's grateful for the patience and tolerance shown to her, and how even those with unconventional pets deserve a place in the community. She never said ducks, but the shade was clear. Then came the real kicker. She was inviting everyone to a reconciliation brunch, this time at her house. And yes, it was potluck style again. I swear this woman had learned nothing. I didn't plan to go, but curiosity, yeah, it got the better of me. So I walked Max past her house that morning, casual as can be. There it was, streamers, balloons, a big sign that said, "Let's start fresh, Karen D." A table of muffins, a jug of lemonade, store-bought, tragically, and 3 people awkwardly standing around pretending they weren't just there for baked goods. I kept walking until Karen spotted me. She waved, smiled like we were old friends, and then she did it. She held up a tiny duck plush toy, pink bow, plastic beaks, and shouted, "See, I come in peace." The 3 people standing near her cringed so hard they almost folded in half. I didn't respond, didn't wave, didn't blink. I just kept walking. Because that wasn't an apology. That was PR. Karen wasn't sorry. She was rebranding. From Queen of the Clipboard to just misunderstood. And the worst part? Later that night, the flyer made its way onto Facebook, and someone commented, "She's really trying, guys. Give her a break." That's when I knew she wasn't done. This wasn't a surrender. It was a setup. She didn't want peace. She wanted control. Again. But what she didn't realize was that the neighborhood had already chosen sides. The ducks weren't just a funny story anymore, they were a symbol. And Karen's rebrand? It was already failing. Quietly, slowly, but definitely. Because in this neighborhood, we remember who brings muffins and who brings lawsuits over ducks. Part 11. Karen's final trick and the ducks' revenge parade. I thought the muffins were her last act. I thought the duck plushie was the final cringe. I was wrong. Because Karen, eternal drama queen, clipboard still metaphorically in hand, had one final card to play. And of course, it was mailed. Not emailed. Mailed. A thick, cream-colored envelope. Wax seal. Smelled faintly of desperation and lavender hand lotion. Inside, an invitation to an event she titled Community Restoration Day, hosted by Karen D. and friends. Underneath that, in elegant cursive font, a parade of peace pets and positivity. You can't make this stuff up. I kept reading. The flyer stated that neighbors were invited to walk their beloved pets around the block, to celebrate unity after recent misunderstandings. Unity after ducks ruined her driveway dominance. But then I saw it. Pet costumes encouraged, best dressed wins a gift basket. And that's when it hit me. Karen wasn't just throwing a parade. She was trying to steal the duck thunder. She was rebranding her HOA disaster as her own quirky, pet-friendly idea. She wanted my ducks to march in her parade. So I did what any petty duck dad would do. I entered. Sir Quack-a-Lot wore a miniature crown and royal cape, biscuit and nibbles dressed as matching taco shells, danger zone, a full gladiator helmet, 3D printed, thank you very much. And Peppa? She wore a sparkly sash that said, "Number Quack Back Queen." We didn't walk. We paraded. Down the sidewalk, flanked by neighbors cheering, laughing, filming. Even Max had a sign on his leash. Ducks before dictators. Karen? She was at the end of the block, standing beneath a makeshift balloon arch, face frozen in a terrified grin. She hadn't expected us to show, especially not like this. She tried to greet us, tried to smile. But as soon as Peppa waddled up, sash glittering, and quacked directly at her feet. Karen flinched and backed away. I nodded politely. "Nice parade, Karen. How's your HOA position going?" She didn't respond. Didn't need to, because every camera in the crowd was already capturing the moment. The ducks. They didn't just win best dressed, they won the whole neighborhood. And Karen? She walked home early, balloons sagging behind her like her dignity. That night, the community group chat blew up. Someone posted a photo of Sir Quack-a-Lot in his crown with the caption, "Long live the feathered king." Another neighbor uploaded a meme of Peppa glaring at Karen that just said, "Sashay away, clipboard queen." Karen didn't reply. She didn't show up to the next meeting, and she certainly didn't send another flyer. Because the war was finally over. The HOA didn't change the world. But in our little neighborhood, the ducks did. Part 12. Duck Dynasty. The quiet that followed the quack storm. Weeks passed. No flyers, no fake HOA notices, no new policy proposals wrapped in legal perfume and passive aggression. It was quiet. Almost too quiet. Karen's house sat dark for days. No porch lights, no floral wreaths, no suspicious clipboard silhouettes in the windows. And then one morning, I saw it. A moving truck. Backed into her driveway like a final sigh. Karen was leaving. No goodbye neighbors Bakadi post in the group chat. No farewell cupcakes with "Sorry I went full dictator" written in frosting. Just boxes, furniture, luggage. Her reign of HOA terror was finally over. But the ducks? Oh, they were just getting started. Sir Quack-a-Lot now wore his crown full-time. Biscuit and Nibbles had a new Instagram account, at Quack Squad Official, courtesy of my tech-savvy niece. Within a week, they had 2,000 followers and 3 unsolicited offers from duck-themed merch brands. Danger Zone? He'd become the unofficial mascot of our neighborhood watch. Someone even printed signs, "Guard ducks on patrol, honk if you see Karen." And Peppa? Well, she'd developed a strange obsession with my neighbor's solar lights and now spent every evening staring into them like she was absorbing power. The neighborhood had changed. Kids brought grapes to toss over my fence like offerings to royalty. Teens stopped by for selfies. And adults? They smiled again. Genuinely. Because without Karen looming over every mailbox, patio chair, or potted plant, we could finally breathe. One night, as the sun dipped low and painted the koi pond in liquid gold, I sat on the porch, lemonade in hand, watching the ducks nap under the soft glow of tiki torches. Max snored beside me, and I thought, it wasn't about the tacos, it wasn't about the driveway, it wasn't even about the ducks, it was about dignity and peace, and the right to say, "No, you may not turn my house into your brunch palace." Karen tried to win with rules, with volume, with scare tactics and legal fluff. But in the end, she was outvoted. By waddling feathers and a community that finally said, "We quack back." And now, the clipboard is gone. The ducks are legends. And I just sit here, in my chair, watching them chase bubbles across the lawn. Because sometimes, the most powerful revolutions don't come with pitchforks or protests. They come with tiny webbed feet and a perfectly timed honk. Epilogue, the last quack, and a quiet worth keeping. They say every neighborhood has that chapter. The one people whisper about during block parties. The one new residents get told over lemonade like it's folklore. This question mark. This was ours. It wasn't about property lines or HOA bylaws. It was about identity, boundaries, and the right to say, "This is mine, and I protect it." And somehow, we didn't need lawyers, lawsuits, or loudspeakers. We needed ducks. Just 5 waddling misfits with attitude and impeccable comedic timing. Karen moved out quietly. No one asked where she went. No one waved goodbye. We simply let her fade. And the vacuum she left behind? We filled it with laughter. With neighbors who finally talked. With kids who drew chalk ducks on the sidewalks and shouted, "Quack attack," when they rode by on scooters. Even the HOA changed. David stepped down 6 months later, replaced by someone younger, calmer, someone who smiled without gritting their teeth. They hosted a community picnic in the actual lot this time. Guess who was the guest of honor? Sir Quack-a-Lot, wearing a bow tie. The event was called Quacktoberfest, celebrating peace one feather at a time. There were tacos, again. But this time, on paper plates on public property, with duck-safe salsa served on the side. I sat under the big shade tree that day, watching Max roll in the grass and listening to kids tell newcomers, this is where it happened, the Great Duck Uprising. And for once, no one rolled their eyes, because in the strangest, most wonderful way, it mattered. It proved that standing your ground doesn't always mean going to war. Sometimes it means opening a gate, letting the truth waddle free, and trusting that the right people, the real people, will see it for what it is. So, if you ever visit our cul-de-sac and see a duck crossing sign with Karen-proof zone spray-painted underneath, know this. It's not just decoration. It's history. It's freedom. It's the sound of feathers flapping in victory, and the quiet peace that finally followed the last quack.